Good day, my Telos podcast friends. It's good to see you today. What a rad show. This was very fun. This is one I've been looking forward to because if you're like me, you've wondered what's going on with Telos marketing. What's going on? What's the story behind this little price bump we've had? Also, what's in the future? What's the plan? Because it seems there's things going on, but how do you find out? Well, what you do is you interview the marketing team and the people who have a worker proposal pushing marketing forward for Telos. So that's what I got to do today. CJ Anders and Katie Roman from the famous Romannanders team. And they just had some really killer insights. And I think that you will be hopefully excited as I was. And now I know some cool stuff and you soon will too about what's up with Telos marketing. So really fun show. We get into all kinds of interesting things. This show today, by the way, this is a worker proposal. So that's awesome. Thank you, work proposal system. And also this is sponsored by Hybrid.Games. The sound engineer, Scott, is freaking awesome. And he's also a rad dev, and Hybrid.Games is his project that is off the hook. So check it out. That's what's up. So today, let's get into the podcast. That's enough. CJ Anders, Katie Roman, Telos podcast.
You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain.
The Telos podcast.
You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Good to see you today, my Telos podcast friends. We have CJ Anders, the one and only, and Katie Roman. Welcome to the Telos podcast.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, thank you. I have my 2-year-old with me, everyone. Sorry about that.
Hunter's the new Telos mascot, so he's welcome in the goings on. What do you think the most interesting thing that's happening with Telos right now is?
All right, I'll go because Hunter probably doesn't want to. I think that probably the most interesting or exciting thing that's happening right now is stuff we can't quite talk about yet. But I would say that seeing what's happening with Rex staking, I had no idea what to expect, and I was really impressed with how quickly so many tokens were staked to Rex. I looked earlier today, I think it's like 45 million tokens, which for perspective, I think the total token supply is like 355 million, which includes the 140 million that have been were put away for the what do you call it? Exchanges. So yeah, so that's a lot of tokens that have been staked, and that's pretty exciting. It's been very interesting. I really had no idea what was going to happen with the TEDP or how it was going to. Nobody knew really. We were all super optimistic and hopeful that it would do something good and that we would have results like we're having. I was excited at least to be able to stake my tokens to Rex and start earning more. And that's been really fun to watch and see. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the UX on the Rex is surprising as well. It's so beautiful. It's so easy to use because when I remember staking to Rex on the EOS main chain, and I staked my tokens there, and it was just complicated and kind of tough to do. And I was definitely expecting that to happen when I popped into Telos, and then the names made more sense. It was to put them somewhere, to be able to lend them, and then to lend them, or however it's worded, was like, oh, that makes sense. I don't have to go through tutorial videos. It's just a couple clicks and it happens. And that was so pleasantly surprising.
So did you use Squirrel Wallet, or what did you use?
Squirrel Wallet, yeah. What a killer wallet. So cool. And the other thing I love about Squirrel Wallet is the local password for my computer, so that I can just pop on and put in, a pretty good password and just get into my account, and without having to go through a bunch of hoops. That's the UX for that is awesome too. I love it.
Yeah. So many good things about Squirrel. I love it. And I thought I'm just going to try, because I never staked to Rex on EOS. Well, actually I did a little bit, but I think I didn't do it until Nudex was doing their thing. And I did it for a little while and I was like, I don't know, I barely made anything. So after a couple of months, and I just undid it. But I just went on to the Squirrel wallet, opened it up, clicked in there, and was like, to see if I could figure out how to do it without like watching, or I had never done it before, because with Nudex it was just stake and you're done. But yeah, it was really I actually was successful, like the first try. So,
That's hard to do in blockchain world. Success on the first try is almost unheard of. So
I know, and lest anybody think that the books behind me are mine and that I should know how to do that, they're not.
I know it looks like you're a very well-developed developer or something, doesn't it?
Definitely not me.
The rewards on Rex were surprising also. My plan was my approach was going to be to stake for the first short period and then probably get whatever larger rewards there were in the center and stop staking so that I could have liquid funds depending on what happened. Because I expected kind of the price to go up before Rex and then everyone to unstake their tokens. But there's a community there that's actually believes in their staking their tokens because they're trying to push this thing forward. And so that's the big indicator that Rex has given also, is people are locking their tokens up and leaving them there. They believe in what's going on with Telos. So that's a cool sign also.
Absolutely. I think that's been one of the exciting things for me, is to see just people putting their money where their mouth is and believing in Telos. I mean, it's interesting because when you're in marketing and I've been in marketing for a long time, and there have been clients and projects that I've worked on that I just thought were like, I was going to say something, but I won't, because there's a little child listening. That you don't really believe in, projects that you just like, I'm putting lipstick on a pig and I don't want to be a part of this. And I don't feel that way at all with Telos. So it's one of those things where I really believe in it. So it's easy to kind of buy in and be a part of it. And so it's exciting to see other people doing the same.
Yeah, you mentioned the numbers earlier. You said there's 140 million in exchanges and I think 35 million staked. Is that what you said?
It could be. I could be just, making that up. I think I heard that or read it somewhere, that there was approximately 140 million tokens that were reserved for exchanges. And then when exchanges didn't want to, I don't know how to say it, they didn't want to comply with the stringent requirements for claiming tokens for their clients or token holders, they just sat there. And it wasn't for lack of trying to contact those exchanges, and because the Telos Foundation definitely did that, but so the community then came up with this idea to repurpose those tokens, and that's where the TEDP came in. So of those 140 million tokens, they're not all circulating now because only a small amount is going to be released every month. I mean, I think they're actually released daily, but I'm not positive on how that code works.
Yeah, do you want to give an update on the Telos Economic Development Plan and where that's at and what's kind of going on? Or
well, I think it's really live, and I didn't really do much research on this to speak to it beforehand, but I think that there's approximately 1 million tokens per month that are being funneled into work proposal system, and then I think 1 million are designated for the Telos Foundation and their initiatives, and then I'm not sure what the percentages or how it works for the block producers, but I think it's a set number of tokens for increasing block producer pay for both the actives and the standbys. Pretty comprehensive. And so far, we haven't seen like a huge flood of tokens into the market. In fact, I think, can we talk about price? Price has gone up.
I think we can talk about price. That's actually something that I mentioned. One of the things that I appreciate about Telos is people just talk about the price. They're just, because there's not like, if there's some company that kind of owns the software or something like, like Block One, they have to be so cautious. But with, with something that's just out in the ether, and, I wouldn't make any promises about the price, but yeah, the price did go up. Yeah. It's cool to see, that happening. I think Telos cracked the top 100 I saw too. So that's really,
yeah, I think
exciting.
I saw that yesterday. I think it was like in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic.
I can't make any promises.
but it's promising. No promises, but it's promising, huh?
Yeah, it looks good.
So you and Katie do marketing, and were you funded through a worker proposal or the Telos Foundation, and what are you guys up to?
Do you want me to grab this? So, Katie, do you want to?
Sure, I'll chime in. We're funded through a worker proposal. We actually have one that's live now for one cycle being 30 days. And so we're waiting to see the results on that. But we had completed a cycle a little over a month ago that was 3 cycles, so 3 months of work. And in our original request, we asked to work in conjunction with the Telos Foundation because CJ felt really strongly that if we couldn't work with the foundation, just the marketing wouldn't work, at least the plans that we had for marketing. So it got voted in. The foundation was like, okay, the community voted for this, so we're going to honor that, and we're going to work with these 2 women to kind of promote the network. And so that's where we are currently with that.
Cool. And you said that you wanted to work with the foundation. Is that so everyone's on the same page? Is you were putting together a bigger scope marketing plan, and you wanted to be on the same page, or what's the benefit of working with the foundation?
The Telos Foundation was created by the Telos Launch Group for the purpose of promoting the network and helping to grow the network. And so it's a unique organization. It's decentralized, and it's really not owned by anyone. So, but it is funded, which is really super cool. The challenge from the standpoint, and I recently wrote an article about this, about decentralized marketing and how difficult it is. And it's really not, at least to my knowledge, is not something that anybody ever undertakes, because why would you? Like, most corporations and businesses are owned by, specific small group of people. They create the purpose and the goals and everything else. But it's different when you have a blockchain like us and so many contributors. So we thought that the best thing to do would be to work with the Telos Foundation as a way to, because they're the only organization that's actually their whole purpose is to promote and build the network. And so having worked with many of the people that were on the board as in the Telos Launch Group and in the marketing team, before launch, I felt like it was really the only way, at least for me, to approach this is to offer our skills and help facilitate the mission of the Telos Foundation. So we approached them before we did our worker proposal and said, hey, is this something that you guys would want? And we had, actually, they actually hired us. They were funds, and the token price is pretty low, so their funds were very limited. And but they did hire us for the first 4 weeks because they didn't want to wait. didn't want to wait for our worker proposal. They were hoping that our worker proposal would go through, and it did, and that we could get started sooner rather than later. So we actually got a head start on our worker proposal by working with the foundation for a month before that, so it's been actually a really good collaborative effort.
I'd like to point out that before Telos launched, when it was just the launch group, CJ was the marketing chair in the launch group. And then she stepped away because she was like, she really believes in like decentralization. She's like, I just think we should let the chain fly. But after like a few months, Telos is doing great. But she was like, actually, I want to help again because I think the token price could be higher if they did X, Y, and Z.
Well,
good job.
And in all transparency, I had a job offer with EOS Alliance, and I went to work for them for a few months, and that there's different things that changed inside the structure of EOS Alliance as far as them turning it into a DAO, and so at that point in time, the sort of the initiatives that I was working on with the EOS Alliance completely just were paused until they had finished working out their structure. So I was looking for something new, and never like fully stepped away from Telos, but was actually working full time elsewhere. So I was pretty busy.
And what are you working on now for marketing Telos? Or maybe let's cover what you've already done as far as the marketing for Telos.
Primarily working with the Telos Foundation. We put in over 700 hours, or right around 700 hours over 3 months. Worked on building education resources, including updating the Telos Foundation website content. We built out the telosnetwork.io website. We put together a master pitch deck for to be used in all kinds of ways, but and that's shared with anyone who needs it. We hear somebody needs a deck, and we are like, here you go. So we also built out a content calendar and a roadmap for creating information for future stakeholders, media contacts. We worked to establish some paid partnerships for the Telos Foundation. What else? There was identifying like target applications for trying to recruit them to Telos. We created a developer-focused content and resources, and we also did like kind of ad hoc things like creating resources for the Blockchain Expo in Europe or Amsterdam, and as well as doing other slide deck development, writing articles, press releases, graphics design, stuff like that. So a lot of different stuff.
Everything. And did you have to do with the Telos YouTube site that has all the kind of matching videos and like tutorials and things like that? Did that have to do with your team?
So most of that stuff, that content was built actually prior to our worker proposal. Like actually, I think prior to launch. Then most of that was built out by I think by the Good Block team. So,
it all fits together so nicely, the things that you're doing and the things that that work the Good Block team put in. Even though it's decentralized, it feels like it has this cohesive feel to it, which is I would imagine that's really tough to do, this decentralized but still kind of branding it as one thing and you wrote a paper about that. I read that, so I'm kind of stealing your thought there, which is super cool. But decentralized branding is quite a task.
It's really kind of nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, and we experienced this prior to launch, and it's still an ongoing thing. I think it's actually really getting better as time has gone on. I think that people are finding their kind of their grooves and their niches about where they fit and what they can contribute and how it can come together. And I've personally feel like when I've reached out to someone for something like, hey, you have this skill or this or that, can you contribute? And people are like, absolutely, yeah, I'll write on it. And we try to encourage people to if somebody, someone approaches them and says, hey, can you do this? We try to encourage people to actually say, yeah, but you need to pay me, because I'm not one, I just don't believe that people should work for free.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the kind of skills for, I don't have technical skills. I'm not a programmer. I can do some HTML stuff in a pinch. But I don't have any, I don't have any of those technical skills. But I think that everybody should get paid for the work that they do and for the contributions that make. So we encourage people to do like what you're doing, with you have skills, you can do this, and you do a really good job. So you should be earning for that, and it adds value to the network. So it's positive. And but from a decentralized standpoint, we have all these people that can do different things, but it really takes some massive amounts of coordination and a willingness for people to go, okay, I'm going to let that part be that person's, and then you just hope that people deliver, because there's no like recourse. Like you can't get fired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We can get fired by the community. They can just like be like, we're not going to pay you anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the worker proposal system, or we call it, CJ and I have been calling it now the work proposal system. It's just a testament to how successful it is. I mean, we have, your proposal, our proposal, the Venezuela proposal. I don't want to mess up his name, but Chioki, all these marketing initiatives that I think you can see in the growing community and the price have added value to the chain. And that's just on the marketing.
It has been cool to see the other parts of the community develop and kind of and pop into adding value. With it, it's easy. There's more of a quantifiable way to kind of pay a developer to complete this task. But with something like marketing, what your team is doing, there's not necessarily, there's still measurables, but it's not as measurable. There's a lot of intangibles that go in, and there's all these little pieces of the ecosystem and the work proposal system. It enables those little intangibles in this big ecosystem to come together, and it's been working really nicely. I mean, really naturally. So it's been cool to see. What do you think the hardest hurdle to overcome when you talk about decentralized branding would be?
I would say the biggest hurdle has been the I've referred to it many times as like herding cats. Just trying to get people coordinated and divvy up the workload. So it's gotten a lot better over the course of the last few months. It's really changed quite drastically, because there's a point in time when the Telos Foundation came in, we came in and we presented this, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. And then it was like, well, wait a minute, who's in charge? And no one's in charge. So it makes it really hard when you have 12 or 15 people who are working on something, and nobody's in charge, and nobody wants to be in charge. And so you have and nobody wants anyone else to be in charge. Mm-hmm. So you have these kind of, I wouldn't even say power struggles, because it's really not like that. It's more of a how do we keep this decentralized? And I've probably said it a half a dozen times. Not everything needs to be decentralized, but from a regulatory or legal standpoint, I think it's a really good practice for us to keep things decentralized as much as we can, as far as the Telos Foundation is concerned and the network is concerned. So I think that the hardest thing has been just coordinating But I think we've kind of found our groove, and it's been really productive, especially the last 2 months. And we're not even, I mean, we're still working. And I say don't work without getting paid, but we're still working. We don't want the momentum that we created in the first 3 months or 4 months to go away. So we've continued to meet every week and engage in conversations and create content. So one of the things that we built out before the end of our last proposal was the telosnetwork.io website. And that was the thing that sparked the questions. Are you guys rebranding Telos? And, what's with that logo? And that was what sparked that article that I wrote about decentralized branding, is that no, we're not. But, and there's a reason why it doesn't look like it is the Telos Foundation. It's because it's not the Telos Foundation. It's us. We created this. This is our design. This is what we think is a really good representation of Telos to certain markets. And so that's what we built. And we've continued to build out content for that site over the last few weeks. So, and that's going to be ongoing. We really want to see that be a fantastic, informative site that has great content, not just for Telos, but always Telos-centric, but also really informative about what blockchain can do for businesses and why it matters. So that content building out is ongoing. And I mean, if you check the website every week, there's probably going to be new pages.
And what's the feel that you're going for with the Telos, or who are you targeting with that, the website?
Well, professional businesses that are interested in, but really anybody. Like, one of the things we really want to focus on is making sure that it's optimized for SEO. So when someone says, why do I need blockchain for my business? They're going to get a hit on our website, and it's going to tell them why. And it's going to point them at the best blockchain out there. Just tell us.
Okay, I didn't realize that's actually people talk about, or within Telos, people talk about, we need to reach out to the greater blockchain community. We need to bring people from outside EOS.io. And it sounds like that's one of the strategies, is to have when people are searching, how do I integrate blockchain into my company? That's what that site is, part of what that site's for, it sounds like.
Part of it, yeah. So, and it just takes time to build this out, but one of our strategies is to build out content that provides use cases and scenarios and information about how blockchain can affect different things like real estate, or just about, we have a huge list of possible applications where people can, if someone's searched blockchain and real estate, there would be an article for them to read about why and how that can affect that. And what that does is it just brings people in, and it gives them an opportunity to learn about Telos from outside of this ecosystem, because this is the EOS.io ecosystem is a little group of people. Drop in the ocean.
A drop in the ocean. And since we've built the site, it's been live for about 2 months now, and we've gotten 2 actual real leads that we can't really speak about, that the foundation is pursuing because of that traffic coming to the site. 2 leads for applications that already exist that may want to come to Telos, without revealing too much. But it's just an example of when you have the right content on the right design, you can attract the right people. And so that's what we were really interested in trying to do.
That's fantastic. Is it established applications, or is it applications that are looking to add blockchain to an app that's already running, or is it new? Oh, that's exciting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm really excited. I hope we can speak more freely about it soon, but it's early days. And
Okay. it's good to put secrets into the show. Then people, that gives them something to hold on to. They have to come back to the next episode with Katie and CJ. You mentioned there's a lot of different logos out there. Is there there was a little bit of like people asking, are you rebranding? Is it what's your kind of take on the actual branding of Telos? Do we need a logo for the coin? You said that the kind of the most used logo right now sounds like is the Telos Foundation logo, or what's that whole situation look like?
So, sorry, I'm like doing all the talking. So the little orange logo that you see, that's like the gradient logo, is the one that and I'm not actually certain who created it to begin with. Has been the sort of most adopted. It's not actually the Telos Foundation logo. The Telos Foundation logo is a kind of bare bones acorn that is pushing up under, like it's like a wave and it's pushing up under the ground. But there is, it's not a wave, it's the earth. But
it's an acorn that's about to turn into a little tree.
It's an acorn in the ocean. No, yeah, it's an acorn is about to burst forth from the earth into a tree. But when we were looking at what we wanted to build out with Telos, and you'll see anything like Romannanders, we have a lot of like we have like trees because the telos or tellus of an acorn is to become an oak tree. And the question is, what's yours? What's your purpose? What's your ultimate, purpose? And it's not that the acorn is bad, because I think I love it. I love the idea. I love the kind of the imagery of that. But Telos is more than just a grassroots. It was, when we started out, it was a grassroots effort built by like 120 people that came together across the world and worked for 6 months in a decentralized way building this. And super cool. And I'm like really proud to be a part of it, even though like I was marketing and, I wasn't building anything. The way that the developers and the programmers were, but it's more than that. And what it offers, what it's going to offer the world is really pretty phenomenal. And right now we're working with the Telos Foundation and another group, Decrypted, to kind of bring everything together and then come up with what is the messaging that we're going to put out to the world. So it's a big deal, and I think that the Telos Foundation is the one that needs to spearhead that, simply because they're the only organization that was actually tasked with this from the beginning. So from a branding perspective, I expect that there's going to be some ideas coming forward pretty soon, and that it's going to be pretty exciting, and it's also going to be reflective of what Telos has become.
Cool. So we're like a seedling now, or like a little 2-inch tall tree at this point, huh? Okay.
Yeah. I
like where we're going with that. That's cool. And you mentioned Decrypted. What is that project, or who is that?
Can you speak to that, Katie?
Yeah, sure. I don't think it's a secret, but Decrypted is they do website builds, and they do branding and marketing, really specializing in messaging, right? And so when the foundation decided that we want to take Telos to the next level, because we're always trying to level up, that in the community, it's like we don't want to live under EOS's shadow forever. They committed a significant amount of funds to this professional group. They're the group that created the Everpedia website.
Oh, cool.
And built Everpedia. They're the group that created the EOS 42 website, which I don't know if you've been there, but it's pretty cool.
Awesome, yeah.
So they work in the broader blockchain world, but they're getting more into the ESO side of things, and it's as much as them choosing us as us choosing them. And when I say us, I mean Telos. So they believe in what Telos is doing, and they wanted to help, and the foundation wanted to work with them. Shout out to Suvi and Justin, who are the marketing chairs in the foundation, who just took over 3 months ago. And I mean, I think we can all see how powerful they've been in those roles. They're like on Lord, like the applications and branding that's coming is amazing. And it's all because of them pretty much. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, so the Decrypted team is going to work on a website that's going to be a hybrid of kind of what EOS Authority brings to the table and what Everpedia brings to the table, with the hopes of creating a really awesome website that's going to be a one-stop place for everything you need Telos for. So that's supposed to come out in November.
Oh, that's exciting.
We hope.
MVP.
No promises.
Okay, yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, that sounds so cool, because there's, when you want to research something in blockchain, you have to go to like Twitter. Like if I want to know, or this is what I think is, like if I want to know what happened within the last week on a chain, like say I'm researching Telos, the best place to go is just Twitter and see what they tweeted out and what stories they put on there. There's not, most blockchains don't have some area that you can go and find out what's new and what's actually happening right now. So that would be a huge resource. So hopefully that, I can't wait. That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah, and I would say one of the strategies to that is that we're actually working on creating more than one location where people can go and get information, so that it's not a centralized situation. The Telos Foundation they have their website, and there's some updates that are happening with that as well that we're working on with them, and then Telos Network is the intent is for all of these sites to be able to support one another, and for people to be able to direct people to those different sites based on their needs of the person. So
and also
it's sort of
flood Google with Telos information. Sorry, I had to put that in there. And you know how search works. It's like the more sites pointing to a topic, the better, the more legitimate.
Absolutely.
right, totally.
There's been this, I think that people are starting to take notice of things like Telos and give them more credit. And in some ways, I think the problems that the main chain, the EOS, had shed light on the reason that we need chains like Telos and Warbly and these other chains. And it's funny also because Dan had mentioned so many times that this is just the software, and the main chain isn't the only chain. There should be tons of chains. And he actually mentioned that he was hoping there would be 10 or 20 chains at launch. He was hoping that it would kind of launch like this. And so Telos has filled that role really nicely. I just think that people are starting to realize that there is going to be a lot of chains, and they're going to be used for specific things. And so, yeah, that's cool to see. I see Telos getting a foothold, it looks like, with applications and with getting ahead on marketing and getting enterprise software. So that seems like a pretty giant niche to be going into. What do you think the marketing focus is? Like where would you say that Telos niche lies?
I would say that Telos isn't really a niche chain. Some people are like, well, it's a developer chain, or it's this chain or that chain, and it's really actually capable of way more than a niche. So what's interesting, like what we're seeing is we're seeing all of these places. We see enterprise business. We see developers. We see applications. We see we're even seeing things like possible. Well, we have our first stable coin to an actual crypto, or to an actual currency, the South African brand is that has a stable coin on Telos. So there's so many different ways that we can go. So from a marketing standpoint, we're actually like we've kind of identified those sort of three areas where we can reach people from a business standpoint, from an application standpoint, a developer standpoint, and also from a user standpoint. And there's so many different ways, and there's so many different people that are involved in Telos that are trying to contribute and wanting to contribute. And so we're involved in, like I said earlier, there's some things that are in the works that we're super excited about, things that are kind of near and dear to our hearts, and that we're getting, ideas that we've had and we've shared, and now these things are getting built. And we're not talking about it really yet, but when it comes out, it's going to be super cool, and we're really, really stoked about it.
I hate NDAs. I just want to spill it all, but it's just to build on what CJ said, and it's something CJ said when we were in one of our branding discovering calls, is, no one asks, what's the brand of the internet? The internet just is. I think that's something CJ said, or something like that.
That's a good point.
And we really see Telos as being one of the major chains that helps become the backbone of the Internet of Things. And I know the trend now is to call it, when you use blockchain, the Internet of Trusted Things. Mm-hmm. And I really think Telos is one of the first chains that sees that and gets that and says, we're not just one thing. We're the new internet, basically. And it's the new internet's going to be made up of a ton of these chains. And I truly believe we can, take a huge market share from, ISP companies, legacy companies, and do this thing. So there's some stuff that will reveal itself in a few months that will really illustrate that. But yeah, I thought that was brilliant when CJ said that on one of our calls when we were trying to figure out the messaging. It's like, the internet's the internet, right? So if Telos is the backbone of the new internet, the internet of value, the internet of trusted things, what is Telos? So we'll be revealing that in a few months. It's in the branding.
That's fantastic. So the niche talk is a little bit, maybe a little bit overrated, it sounds like, and that's good to hear. I like to think of Telos thinking so big and going so big. That's killer.
Yeah, we've discovered in speaking to these developers, you're so down on yourself, right? Like, neither of us are technical, CJ and I. We have backgrounds in marketing and product management. So we've worked with technical teams, we've worked with art teams, video teams, production teams, but we haven't, well, CJ has, but I guess now I'm speaking for myself, but I'm not.
I know for a fact you've done all those things.
I know, but and so you get really down on yourself and you're like, well, I can't take this call with this person. I don't know what I'm talking about. But then you speak to these people outside of our EOSIO world, which is very small, but intelligent and like in the know. And then you realize, oh my God, no one effing knows what blockchain is still. Like, I can't believe this. Like, because we're all reading in our ESIO community all these articles about blockchain and watching like what the SEC is doing with blockchain. So you just kind of like assume that it's out there, and it really isn't. It's so strange. It's like, so the market share, the possible market share is just so huge, and people just really need to be educated because no one knows. Like, from investors that are in their 60s, we've spoken to people that are in college in their 20s, and you speak to these just the whole spectrum of people, and they might blockchain, what's that? Oh, Bitcoin and stuff? Yeah, for drugs, right? Like, you buy drugs. It's just like, there's so much to be done still.
Yeah, and that's true, and that's one of the reasons why we are so big on creating useful, informative content that isn't written necessarily for it's not written for the people that live and work in this space. It's written for the people that need this space and don't know it yet. So that's one of our goals. But I think that always education is lacking. I mean, I came into this space. She brought me into this space. I think I think it was like February of 2018. And you were like, we have to meet. I have to tell you about this. And, and so we got together and I was like, I don't know about this.
We're getting too in the weeds, but I have to say it's because I had worked with CJ before at a startup, and she was brilliant. And so I knew I wanted to make blockchain, like I really bought it, drank the Dan Kool-Aid, and I was like, I'm going to help Dan Larimer. Like, I was like a creepy fan. And so then I was thinking about all the people I'd worked with in my past, and I was like, who would get this? Because it's really hard, as you know, to get people to get it, and especially so early on in the adoption of this all. And I was like, I wrote down 3 names, and CJ was one of them. I'm like, meet me here at this coffee shop. And like, it seems so weird, but she was totally like, yeah, let's meet.
Yeah, I was like, okay. And it was actually really fascinating because I think one of the very first things that I did after I started like learning about it and researching was I built a slide deck, and so that I could understand it, because I was like, what is all this? And I built a deck just so that I could go, what is, like what is blockchain and how does this work? And because there wasn't anything really out there. And I saw some videos on YouTube and different things that people made. And I was like, yeah, no, nobody's going to understand this. Like we need to break it down a little bit further. I know people probably, I don't know, some people saw that, I don't remember that loud, screechy British guy who lives in New York and does those HBO news thing last week, today, or something like that. And he did something about blockchain and EOS, and he was I mean, he's a comedian, so he's funny, but it was like that. Like, that's pretty much what everybody's like, what? Everybody's talking about blockchain. Nobody knows what it is. And so from an education standpoint, that's been a kind of one of those things that's like near and dear to our hearts is actually educating the masses. I can't tell my mom about it because, I mean, I've tried.
Yeah, that's like it's so funny getting in, like, you go see family or go to an event or something, like, oh, what are you up to? Just doing like marketing stuff. Just like, we can't get into this. I don't know. I need CJ's slide deck, I think. But yeah, absolutely. It is. That is a really cool thought though, CJ, that the thought that we're so early, that why should it be a niche? It's not like there's not this giant market share. Katie's talking about how no one knows about blockchain yet. I mean, the whole pie is still sitting there. So why just like aim for a sliver of it when there's just the ability to educate people about what blockchain itself is, and bring just massive amounts of value to Telos. So yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the things that I should say about that is that there's a lot of people who have come to be a part of Telos, and those people, they all come with ideas about things that they want to build on this network, and are we going to say no to a stable coin because we're not a financial chain? No, we're not, because those people came here because they believe in what we are building and they want to be a part of this chain. And so if there's that, and there's a real estate guy, and there's a social media person, whatever it is, Telos is actually designed and built so that we can do that. It has not only the infrastructure of EOS.io, the software and the speed and the the ability to do 5,000 transactions per second and all of that. It also has some unique things like the trail voting system, which makes it really interesting. We have an election year coming up in the U.S. in another year, and how can we build this out? Blockchain voting, why can't that happen? I don't think it's going to happen by 2020, but the possibilities are kind of endless. We have a decentralized storage solution that's going to be coming out soon, and it's kind of phenomenal. And for applications that need that, we have that. And I don't know if you've done any research on IPFS, but interplanetary fast. Yeah, it has limits, and we're solving that on Telos. Nobody else has that. So there's some really big things that we're doing that nobody else is doing, and together, all of those things, awesome.
Big time, yeah. And that IPFS solution, for people who haven't heard about it, I think is proprietary to Telos. I don't think that's not like an open source code. That's something that's specific to Telos, this solution for how to basically streamline IPFS so it's actually usable, which is, I mean, that's a huge just a piece of intellectual property that Telos has that is going to be a big leg up. That is really cool.
For sure.
I forget. I wish I could point someone to the podcast. It was one of the past 10 podcasts somewhere in there. We talk about IPFS and go into it. So maybe I'll put that in the show notes if someone wants to go find it. But
yeah, was it Douglas?
Oh, you know what? I'm sure it was. It was the Douglas Horn episode. Now it doesn't need to go in the show notes. Thank you. Saved me some work. It was definitely Douglas. Yeah, he was an absolute wealth of knowledge. What an interesting guy Douglas is. I knew a lot about him, and met him back during when EOS launched in San Francisco like a year and a half ago or whatever. But I didn't know. I never looked into his background or anything. But man, he's like a Renaissance man. He's got all kinds of stuff going on. So he's like such a cool person to have, at the Telos Foundation and as a resource. Yeah, really.
Well, he's not on the Telos Foundation.
He's not.
No,
what is he?
In fact, he owns, or his partner, him and his partners own Good Block.
Good Block. Okay, yeah, that's
and Good Block is an infrastructure partner on Telos, a block producer, and they are also a developer, an application developer. So they're developing games, like really high end, cool games. And and I would add to that Douglas is a really nice guy. And,
yeah, he's cool.
I got to go up there to Seattle just a little over a year ago, and met them in their office, and got to go around and spend a couple days or a day, maybe it was just one whole day up there with them, and that was when I was doing it on the launch group, and I wanted to go to Seattle. I was visiting a friend, and so I asked if I could come, and I worked in their office for a day, and it was really they're really neat people, really good people. So can't say enough good things about them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've covered a lot of the whole marketing plan, what you've been up to, kind of what's going on right now. Do you have anything further into the future that you can talk about, or any longer roadmap, maybe a year or 2 year roadmap?
Well, I can't actually quite yet speak to that. So there's some new things that are going to be coming out in the next 2 or 3 months that are going to be very pivotal and from a direction standpoint. And when we get there, when we get to that point, it's sort of like we are really trying to define some of the most important aspects of Telos and where we're going. And when we get there, we'll be able to build out a roadmap from that perspective. And it's all exciting. I mean, these are such early days, and it's very interesting. I think that one of the things that is probably the biggest challenges with decentralized marketing is the fact that you just can't move as fast. And it's not something that I'm really accustomed to. So having been in centralized marketing for a long time, and working in a couple of 2 or 3 different agencies that were really fast from that standpoint of this is what you need. We'll go through this process. We'll do this, we'll do that. And then, 4 weeks, new branding, new website. We were super agile and very, very quick. We have systems and processes in place that just you streamline everything, and we don't have that. It's actually really hard to do. So there's these times when there'll be somebody be like, hey, can you write an article about yada? And we're like, yeah, sure. We get it all done, and then it sits there. We're like, wow, you we weren't like, we thought it was going to be weeks before we got that. We're like, no, ask and you shall receive.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do y'all think about maybe 10 years, 15 years down the road, what blockchain, what Telos looks like, how it kind of affects the world and the internet as we see it?
So, I have a lot of like future tripping imagination about different things, but I like the idea of people being able to actually own all the content that they create, and not be worried about getting demonetized, or if somebody likes what you're doing, they pay you for it. And I like that from that kind of standpoint of everybody owns what is theirs, and as opposed to corporations mining your content and selling it and using it to benefit themselves, and you never see that. I don't know. I guess everything I see, like Facebook doesn't exist anymore, and Twitter doesn't exist anymore. There's something completely new that is people come together, but also there's a high level of security. So you're not worried about identity theft is gone because everybody has really tight control over their information. And right now we don't have any control of our information. Our information is everywhere. I wrote an article about decentralized storage, and I was talking in there a little bit about how everything, like I've had my information stolen because I used a debit card at Home Depot and once at Albertsons, a grocery store. I've had twice that happen to me.
Oh.
I've had one time I was buying a house and they were like, you have an unpaid hospital bill I was like, no, I don't. And they were like, no, you have a big hospital bill that you didn't pay out of Fresno.
Oh, no.
I was like, I've never been to Fresno. Like, that's not possible. And yet there it was. And so I kind of dream of a world where that's not possible anymore.
To build on top of that, CJ and I have the same dream. But 15 from 20 years from now, I just really hope these internet service providers are gone, or they're just scaled down significantly. I know in the United States, there's always this big struggle between, should these internet service providers be able basically to dictate who can be on the internet?
Mm-hmm.
And in what way and how, and Google, with their algorithms, who knows what their motivations are. I don't want to get into conspiracy theorist stuff, but it's like
we're all conspiracy theorists here.
Yeah, they're just dictating, what you see and when you see it. And I don't want to say too much, but if Telos succeeds in being a little part of decentralizing that, so we're not relying on these ISP providers as heavily, if Telos is a part of ensuring that we can peer-to-peer all day long, where each of our computers is just the service provider, we don't need these large conglomerates in the same way, I think that's just, it's gonna help. It's coming at a time when we need it as a world. We're going one of two ways. It's either a way of just complete automation, people out of work, no one's getting paid for anything, or we can change that story and go a different way where we're just actually paying people what they deserve. I remember I listened to a podcast and it was so telling. They tell us we don't have that much value to give anymore in this new economy, but the truth is, our phones are recording us talking on our phones and using the language that we speak for their AI machines to know, to learn how to speak in a human way. But they're not paying us for that. They're just stealing that from us. And so I envision a world where it's like, no more freebies. You have to pay everyone. And if you don't, we're going somewhere where they're going to pay us, and people are going to get paid and make a living just being human. So that's kind of my vision as well. to build on that. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, you guys talked about peer-to-peer, better security, kind of like a free internet. And I love the concept of us coming, like the pendulum swinging back more to us being human, interacting as humans. Like this peer-to-peer is, we've gone so far towards interacting with, a million people, and then it's kind of all under one umbrella, and everyone's no one has a voice anymore necessarily. It's Google. There's five websites on the internet, and they're all reposting each other's content. It's like, so yeah, we can go towards this peer-to-peer where we get to back towards human interaction. And the other thing that's so exciting about that is what you're talking about, getting paid for the value you add. And as a creator or marketer, like both of you have done, that there's so many ways that you create and add value that there's not really a way to monetize, because there's no peer-to-peer interaction. But as we keep doing that, as this keeps evolving, then creators and people who are, artists and things like that will have an avenue to explore their talent. Kind of more people live in their passion. There's a more human future if we get it right. And so that is exciting, building on both what you guys said. So that's really cool.
Love it.
Yeah, well said. That's the perfect ending, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So where is the best place to find what you two are up to?
Definitely check out telosnetwork.io. People should understand that the colors and the logo, that's us. That's our design. We're not trying to rebrand Telos. We'd love being able to be included in the conversation about that, about where Telos is going and what that's going to look like, and what kind of imagery. So it's really important. I think I'll just little touch on this at the end. It's really important for people to understand from a marketing standpoint, when you are trying to get a message out, everything that you do in marketing and branding needs to support that message. So, if you are building something huge that has, kind of infinite possibilities, you have to think about what that looks like and what sort of images support that, and what sort of words and icons support that. And so I expect that as we work through this process, and I've done this multiple times, that what we'll see is something that's different than what we've seen already. And I think that the original logo and the imagery, even the colors, were great because it was so organic, and what we were building was so like grassroots and organic. But and there's still an element of, but we are bigger than that, and we are ready for something way more. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that is and how that comes into play. But our website, that's our kind of vision for how we see it, and what Telos is capable of, and what the possibilities are. And there's more. We will continue to contribute. And so if you want to see our worker proposal, you can get the links from the Squirrel Wallet. You can also find it on ChainSpectre, and if you want to see our past reports for our old worker proposal, you can go to romannanders.com.
Literally Roman, the letter N, and then Anders.com.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool. Yes, we'll put that in the show notes. So if you're listening, you can go click through and check it out. Well, this was a wonderful show, and I'm excited now because apparently there's some cool stuff coming that I don't know about, and the Telos podcast listeners don't know about it. So everyone just be excited and hold on for a few months, and hopefully we'll have CJ and Katie back on the show for the big reveal, the big Telos podcast reveal show. So
we'd love that.
Yeah. Farewell, my Telos podcast friends. Farewell, Katie. Farewell, CJ. It was great talking to you guys today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
The money is not the prime asset in life. Time is.